Well, it is 6:30, but I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that we rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is comments from the public. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Seeing none, is there anyone in the virtual audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your hand. No hands raised.
Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't, may I comment?
Sure.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Just briefly, I wanted to say that, I think we've all worked long and hard on these bylaws. And my understanding is that they've been approved by council and that the Board of Selectmen has registered no objection to them. I feel you've gone completely out of your way to field all such objections over the past year and a half. And I think many of the people who voted in 2021 would like to see these bylaws expeditiously passed so that you can move on to other business. Thank you.
There are no other comments from the public. Let's turn to the meeting minutes for the March 27 meeting. I entertain a motion to approve them as submitted.
I move to approve that.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great job. Executive reports, Chief.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the meeting tonight. Obviously, we have a lengthy agenda, so with your permission, Mr. Chairman, can I just go through those items? And obviously, if there's questions, I'll pause, but if not, just continue on if that's okay with you. Great, fantastic. Just a spoiler alert, there's been a lot of talk in town about agenda item 14, discussion and possible action to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment of the chief of police. I'm not resigning tonight, so everyone can take a deep breath at that. Lots of emails, text messages from very nice comments, by the way, but obviously that's not the intent of that agenda item. We'll start first with fiscal year 23, the operating budget. There is a couple of things I would like to just briefly mention to the commission. Obviously, you'll hear my personnel report, but you did receive my email. So extra personnel will continue to run into the red until June 30th, whereas the salary line item will run in the black. We spent a lot of time talking about that. It's been in my budget presentations. We detail it in our budget books, that when we fill vacant shifts, it comes out of that extra personnel line item. I'd also like to comment on the line item entitled holiday replacement. When you're looking over your budget sheets that we send you, you're probably thinking, wow, they haven't spent 1 cent out of holiday replacement. As we know from the budget process, holiday replacement at some point gets merged with vacation replacement. They're 2 separate line items, so we can be transparent and show the citizens how we come to know we need those funds. So in the budget process, it's presented as 2 different line items, but operationally it's used as 1 line item. So town hall does take care of that transfer at some point. And then just to point out a couple of other things, obviously our legal line item is drastically over budget. However, I do not feel that that's going to negatively impact our bottom line because of the savings that we're sadly realizing in the salary line item. And I am not concerned about the fuel line item because, as the commission knows, practice of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance is monies that we collect for use of vehicles during private duty assignments come back into the budget to take care of extra fuel expenditures and vehicle maintenance expenditures. And that's how the town is able to flat fund that line item each year. So those are just my quick mentions on the fiscal year 23 operating budget. Obviously, I'll answer any questions that anybody has.
Any questions? None.
Great. Only thing I'd like to point out on the fiscal 24 budget process, May 1st, 6:30 at the Old Saybrook Middle School is the annual town meeting on the budget, or the budget town meeting. Remember that the only thing that actually can happen at that meeting is it is adjourned to referendum, but it's very important to come and support the budget that you supported here during our process. So once again, May 1st, 6:30, Old Saybrook Middle School. For the off-budget accounts, you have been given the summaries of the various off-budget accounts that have been impacted from month to month. I think everything is very self-explanatory, but if anyone has any questions?
Any questions?
I think, yes.
What was the Downs Construction Company in check for?
So that out of Insurance Exchange? So that was the company, oddly enough, our original construction company for the building. But that's the company that we agreed to hire to hang the new replacement doors as part of that insurance claim. And all of them are in except like 3 or 4 doors. Couple came in too short that you could actually crawl under. So that wasn't good. And there was a problem, I think, with one of the ballistic resistant doors, but they're working on that.
Okay, personnel matters.
Sure. So going into personnel matters, this is like a bittersweet one. Rachel O'Connell, as you know, you recently hired her. She is a reservist for the United States Air Force. She was accepted into a pretty elite leadership school, which we're very excited about for her. She's very excited about it. However, it took her away from us for the entire month of April, and she'll be returning back to duty on May 8th. So that was kind of a little hole in the schedule, but excited that she was able to do that in her military career as she serves the country. Patrolman Christopher Dwyer is still out injured. He was out injured for the last 4 days. The latest note that we received today, he's out at least until May 3rd when he's reevaluated. I did send you the 2 officers that resigned. So Anthony Inzateri resigned with no notice, as I indicated in your email. He walked in, handed an envelope and his key to the on-duty sergeant, and then walked out of the building. He is going to Waterbury. That'll be his 3rd police department. And Tyler Moreau the next day did the same thing. Walked in, envelope, keys, and walked out. Both did this within like 5 or 6 hour window of their shift. So in their resignation letters, they wished everyone well. I don't think that meant the folks that had to immediately work overtime to backfill them because there was no notice given to adjust the schedule. Tyler's going to East Haddam, and that'll be the 4th police department in his career. So we wish them both the best of luck. We're still finishing up with Mr. Insatardi. He has some administrative things he has to accomplish with the captain. So I've been working with the Waterbury Police Chief to make sure that happens. And then finally, as I report every month, Custodian Hanley is still out on an unpaid 1-year leave of absence that comes up in December.
Am I correct in understanding that we did not bear the expense of the police academy for either of those officers?
No, because they were lateral hires.
Well, interesting, right? So we are actually going to bill Waterbury because when Anthony came to us, he was not Connecticut Post certified. And the way the statute reads, I think I have it somewhere here, brought it just in case there'd be a question. The statute just talks about certification. Doesn't talk about the police academy. The statute says, whenever a police officer obtains certification while employed by a law enforcement unit and is subsequently hired by another law enforcement unit on or after July 1st, 2016, and within 2 years of such officer obtaining such certification, the law enforcement unit hiring the police officer shall reimburse the initial law enforcement unit 50% of the total cost of certification. The provisions of this section shall not apply to a law enforcement unit that hires a police officer 2 years or more after such officer obtains certification. So I have spoken to the Waterbury Police Chief about that. The 50% mark is around $14,500. I'll be submitting him a letter, and he said that he's willing to pay for it. He's currently down 54 guys in Waterbury. With our situation, so we have 4 hard vacancies, 4 positions that we have no names attached to. We have 2 officers who are currently halfway through the police academy, 1 officer who's on field training. So those are 7 people out of the 25 right now that are not personnel assets that you hear me talk about. 1 is currently on military leave, as I discussed, and 1 is out injured. So with that, we're operating with 16 full-time police officers right now, which is getting close to the critical level. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, I think, in our executive session item when it comes to collective bargaining and my thoughts on what we need to do for recruitment and retention, clearly.
Hey, Chief, how long was Monroe Monroe with us?
Yeah, probably a couple years, mainly on the mid shift.
Three-ish or?
3 years, yeah. But he came from another Connecticut police department, so that statute doesn't apply to him.
Did you say she?
He,
That's what I thought. I'm like, wait, did you? Okay, thank you.
welcome.
In their letters of resignation, did they give any indication of why they were resigning or just I quit?
None, no reason. So both will be contacted. Like I said, we still have some administrative work to take care of with Mr. Inzatardi. Did you get a hold of Marotha?
I did not.
No. So he'll be asked if he wants to come in for his exit interview if he wants, but my guess is he doesn't based on the way, they resign. Which I do believe, and I have no problem saying publicly, I think it's very unprofessional to leave any professional career without notice.
Without notice.
So Chief, can I just bring up one thing? I thought you had said that you weren't gonna do any more exit interviews. Am I wrong in that or?
No, so we're not doing exit interviews in the format that we were doing before, but we are still going to try to have conversations with people as they choose to leave our employ.
And how are these conversations gonna go about? Like any written anything or
No.
all
There might be
verbal?
a summary by whoever conducts the exit interview.
Okay, so right now we don't know who's gonna conduct them?
I do, but we'll reveal that to the commission if and when they decide to participate in one.
Okay, thank you.
It's up to the departing employee if they want to participate.
Okay,
You can't
Yeah.
mandate.
Before we go on to the next thing, I just have a question or suggestion. I'm not even sure if I want to phrase it. But right now, we're down this many patrol people, and yet we still have a ton of people out doing road jobs. I mean, is there any way that these companies can bring in some of their own people? I mean, we're gonna need our staff.
Yeah, I'm fine with what we're doing right now. That's a daily.
Well, no, the email said that you were gonna talk to Sergeant Walsh about a different Sergeant Walsh about a different schedule. So if they're gonna work an 8-hour shift on the road and an 8-hour shift for us, I personally think let's have them for the 2 8-hour shifts for us, but.
Right, so that information in your email, I'll discuss during that executive session because it has to deal with collective bargaining.
and I mean, I think another, like a different way to word that question is, what sort of contract do we have with the private duty work? And if that's executive sessions talk, I get it, but that's how I would word the question.
Yeah, that's subject to collective bargaining. So just to
Right.
give you a very quick example, I won't get into details because it'd be improper. But if I all of a sudden said, hey, listen, guys, it's just tough right now, guys and gals, no private duty work this week. The union can grieve that because I'm taking away work that is a right to them. So it would have to be a collaboration through collective bargaining to do that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Professional development wise, just a couple of quick things. So Patrolman Egan, as I mentioned, he is on field training, so he graduated the police academy. So he is off to the races and we're excited about that. Patrolman Millardo and Detective First Class Williams will be his primary field training officers. Detective Tabor completed a course entitled Advanced Interview and Interrogation. Patrolman Simpson completed the patrol rifle certification course, and Captain DePerry completed his intoxilizer instructor course.
A related question. Could you prepare for us for the next meeting a detailed report on how the officers are trained in the operation of body worn cameras? So
Sure.
we can
Yeah, I mean,
shed some light on that.
Yeah, I think there's more to it than the training of it, Mr. Chairman, right? So I think that if we rely on forming opinions, certainly at your level, based on what I feel is a poorly written newspaper article, I don't think that's good, right? So body worn cameras are worn by police officers in Connecticut because it's a law. And there are several different vendors of body worn cameras, and all of the vendors in some way, shape, or form have passive recording. So when our police officers go to a call for service and the body camera has its power on, and then is either activated by a push of a button to push record, or is activated because the lights on the police car went on. And then that incident ends and they go back to the police station and they write their report. And while they're writing their report, they watch their body camera footage. And when they watch that file that they created, they see 1 minute of passive recording prior to when they push the button. So there is absolutely, positively no way that a sworn law enforcement officer is sitting watching things happen in the world 1 minute prior to them pushing the button and not knowing that it's passively recording, because that's the only possible way that that footage can be available. What I find interesting, and I'm sure you keep up with this as I do, on March 31st, the Inspector General released a report concerning an officer-involved shooting in Norwich. And the Norwich Police Department uses the WatchGuard Motorola camera system, same as ours. The Norwich Police Department union is our union, is UPSO. So they're represented by the same exact union. And when the officer that was involved in the shooting was giving his statement to the Attorney General's office with his union attorney by his side, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that things were happening so fast, I never had time to activate my body-worn camera. Yet in the Inspector General's report is a link to that officer's body camera footage. All video, no audio, because the Norwich Police Department used the passive recording of that officer-involved shooting incident to show that their employee was in the right. Same system, similar policy, because we all follow the statewide policy, same union, no issue. Why is it an issue here when we used the passive recording to prove that someone who was arrested for a felony was making false statements? And because of the uproar, very quiet uproar, because I think a majority of the people in this community support the fact that we will use technology that we're allowed to use as an employer to make sure that we have the right people working the streets and wearing a gun and having the old Saybrook police patch on their shoulder. We had Motorola come in and do an independent audit of our system. And Motorola found that since we've had the system, we have downloaded passive video twice. Once for Mr. Zarbo and once for Mr. Dwyer, who was working the event with Mr. Zarbo. You were all privy to that in the Internal Affairs report, and certainly that's been reported widely. So there is absolutely, positively zero evidence that we are viewing passive recording. In addition to that, we have a policy that is modeled after the statewide policy that says you can't record yourself in the bathroom. Now, I don't stand outside the bathrooms in the police department and remind people to remove their body camera or to power it down, because I give these same individuals weapons, so I trust them. So based on the fact that they view passive video, they certainly know it's there. And when we train them on it, we talk about passive video incidents and how important they are. We certainly know it was used in the termination of 2 police officers, right? One who falsely reported that a gaggle of raccoons ran in front of his car. Passive recording proved that he was wrong, that he lied. We know that we used passive recording when an officer said, I ran this girl's license plate because she was suspicious. Because on Black Friday, she got a big TV, went to the register, paid for it, put it in her car, and then returned her carriage, which is not exactly characteristic of a crime in progress. But we use that passive video to prove that that officer was lying. You see, my job is difficult, right? I have to make sure that the men and women in blue deserve to be doing what they're doing, that their moral compass is set in the right direction, and that they are the proper people to be serving and protecting the citizens and visitors of the town of Old Saybrook. Body camera laws are there for a lot of reasons. One of them is transparency to the public. The other one is officer safety. I'm a cop. I get involved in something. I don't have time to do this. And now everyone else has a different story than I do. My passive reporting can save my career. And thirdly, it's a training element, right? That people can watch their own camera and they can work with a supervisor. You did this right. You did this right. Let's do this a little bit better. That's why we have the program, but we're certainly not misusing it. And I don't think the question is, are they trained? Because if they don't understand why they're able to watch a minute before they hit the button, then something else is wrong with our employees. Additionally, I don't see anyone here complaining about it from our rank and file. You don't have the union president writing you a letter, right? Mr. Srirachi has tried to get me arrested because I'm a police chief. That is a body worn camera program in accordance with state statute. I think this was a whole lot of nothing. And Commissioner Manning, not that I can talk out of school, but you were the one that caught the individual in his lie in front of the commission when he said he didn't know that he had the body camera was on, yet he kept covering it.
When
So-
texting.
While texting, correct. So I think that the claims that we're seeing in a biased newspaper article are just, ridiculous, quite frankly.
Can I,
Much more integrity than that.
I just have one quick question, if this is on. Okay. So how long, so a day's worth, 24 hours, how long does that passive recording, last?
So it really depends on how active that individual body camera is. So the passive recording is never ever downloaded to our server. It doesn't actually become a file. It just kind of sits on a thumb drive, if you will, inside the individual camera. And as events happen, it gets overwritten.
Like overridden 24 hours, 48?
It depends on how busy. So in the case of Mr. Zarbo's incident, remember there was passive recording available on his body camera, but not on Mr. Dwyer's. And it just depended on how often that body camera was used. Remember, we don't have a one-to-one program. So when the body camera is checked out, depending on how many recordings are on it, can depend on how much passive video from the previous officer is still there.
So there's not one body camera assigned per officer. Like it's whatever they grab and go.
Well, it's what's ever assigned to them, yes. Yeah, so
Per
body
day?
cameras for the 3 different shifts, so they can charge 16 hours before they're in use.
Okay, so it could be different any shift.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
I have one question though, and it might come up in the correspondence. We had a correspondence from someone, and the one question that I also had sort of in my own mind was, does the chief wear a body cam?
I have a body camera, so I have to adhere to the law, just like everyone else does. No one's above the law. So if I'm having an interaction with a citizen, a law enforcement interaction, the law says I have to have my body camera on. So I have one right docked in my police car.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, have you ever been to like a situation where you didn't have your body camera?
Then I what?
That you didn't have your body camera? Like, have you ever showed up at an incident where you didn't have your body camera?
Yeah.
And how would you explain that?
Because I was off
I mean-
duty in my pickup truck,
Okay,
and I don't have one in my pickup.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just have one question.
Sure.
You said something about, the onus being on the employee to remove the camera,
Absolutely.
going into locker rooms and all of that. Most of the things that I've read, the statutes and all sorts of information, don't actually state it that way. They stated that the onus is more on the employer.
So our policy says they must deactivate it, and I can't
They
deactivate it.
specifically
They
must.
have to, right? So if I'm a police officer, I have my body camera on. If the power is on but I have not pressed record, it is passively recording. And again, I know that because when I go back and watch myself, I see things before I hit the record button. If I'm going into the bathroom, my options are turn the power off or take my body camera off. So if I go in and I'm recording, that onus is on me. I did not do my job. I did not either deactivate by powering down or I did not remove. Otherwise, I would need bathroom monitors. Hey, 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 your camera, right? We don't have that.
Mind sending
I-
this to us?
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
like to.
I think, is that one of the website? It's on the website. It's one of the 13 policies on the website.
Well, I think what I'm confused about is you just said, okay, turn it off. Can you explain when passive is going? So what, there's like an actual like on switch and then there's like a recording on.
There you go. You got
Okay.
it. You nailed it.
So if I turn it off, like
You
just
turn it
off,
off.
it's not going to passive.
Doesn't do anything because there's no power. There's got to be a little, mouse running in the wheel to cause it to do anything. So if there's no power, there's no passive recording. If there's no power and you hit record, I don't even think it goes on, right? No, you got to have the power on.
So
Okay.
So it's kind of like a remote control without batteries. You can push the buttons all day long, it's not going to work. So the power has to be on for there to be passive recording.
Okay. And Carol, I don't see this correspondence about the body cam. Was that just to you or was that to
No, there was
everybody?
I don't have a copy, but there was a correspondence that came out and that was one of the questions.
That was the Fortune 500 gentleman.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I'm sorry, man, I cut you off.
I just have a question. I mean, I'm concerned about our police officers because I feel like it is a little violation of privacy. But I also look at it as a citizen. Now, you have somebody that's in a car accident, DUI, and they have to be taken to the clinic for medical attention. Police officer walks in, his camera's powered up, but he hasn't activated it. But it's still going to record other people in the clinic passively.
But it can't be used unless there's a law enforcement reason for it. So if I'm in the clinic as a police officer and my body camera is on, but it is not actively recording, and I'm only passively recording video, and now this person starts jumping the nurse and I have to go wrestle them down, and I have a use of force complaint, the entire law enforcement interaction now, video, not audio, has been captured. So I share your concern about our police officers, and that is a piece of technology that can save the career of a police officer by showing what they did was just and in accordance with training and policy.
Oh, no, I'm all for the body cameras. I don't have an issue with that. It can save and it can also harm. I understand that. But my concern is that I'm taking out not the drunk person that just went and attacked the police officer. I'm saying anybody else in the clinic that has been viewed as the police officer walking through. I don't.
Again, those are not video files unless we need to archive them. So that's why we had Motorola do the audit. And Motorola showed only 2 times have we downloaded any passive video footage. That was Mr. Zarbo and Mr. Dwyer for that one event, that criminal investigation that led to a felony arrest.
Mr. Harris.
Mr. Harris was on the car camera.
I think that everybody needs to also think about a few things. I have personally said that, I'm against the passive recording, but as I think about it, we could be sitting in a medical, at the ER, right? And the police officer walks in, somebody steals my child. Okay. I don't care who's sitting in that ER. I don't care what problems they have. I want to know what's on that body cam. So I think that there's 2 ways to look at everything and, what is the greatest benefit for all? So if people have a problem with the body cam footage, I think most of them, and again, I'm speaking out of turn, I don't know for sure, but are assuming that, the chief is downloading people, picking their noses or going to the bathroom, but that's not what's happening. And I think if we can look at what it can be for the greater good, that's different and that's more beneficial. I don't know. I think I would love to get the opinions of the police officers, chief, if that's, I don't know what way we can make that work, but if there's a way that we can possibly get their say.
Well, Commissioner, with all due respect, it's irrelevant, right? So it's a workplace policy in accordance with state statute. It's just that simple. This is not a vote of the masses whether we have it or not. We must have it by state law. It's configured the way that we want it to be configured, and it has proven to be successful in ridding the town of Old Saybrook of a felonious police officer. So,
But I think there's other
hold on, let me
towns that
finish.
haven't.
What I find interesting is that a small group of people and one reporter are focusing on the fact that we're using the body camera technology the way it was intended, rather than acknowledging that Old Saybrook is doing the correct thing under the Police Accountability Act to make sure that we don't have bad police officers in uniform. I think we're really focused on the wrong thing. Again, your point of talking to the police officers. If they had a major issue with it, we would see them here. We do not.
Okay.
Because they all know that they're passively recorded because they use the passive video footage that they get 1 minute of it to write their reports. We also know that Mr. Zarbo hid his camera when record was not pushed to hide text messages that he was typing. So he was very well aware of passive recording. That was both in the internal affairs report and the warrant that was released to the public.
So can we simply just make something in each person's personnel file where they sign a paper saying that they are aware that it's passively recording to satisfy everybody?
There's no need to do that, and there's been no request for that. So a newspaper reporter doesn't change the way we treat employees.
I'm not saying that.
There's no requirement to do that. It's a law.
When we sat in executive session.
But,
there was a few-
okay, so just devil's advocate here. If
Surprise
there's no,
faces by whom, Renee?
there's no
People that
requirement.
are trying to put up a defense for an employee that was about to be terminated. That's different, right? So I respect that a defense attorney and a union attorney is going to try to use whatever tactic they can to assist their client, right? That's their job. But it doesn't change that what they're arguing about, whether that's right or wrong. And what we have done is correct. And quite frankly, I think we're spending too much time on it because it is a law and we're going to continue using it in the way that we do.
I didn't bring my gavel tonight, but if I had.
You would have gaveled.
It would be tough.
We'll accept the virtual gavel. There you go.
Done. Okay, let's go to item 5, discussion of possible action to support the recommendations of the safety. Oh, I'm sorry. We had the activity.
Activity report, just any questions? Obviously, you got that in your package.
Are you moving on to number 5?
Now we're moving on to number 5.
I move to table this item to the next regular or special meeting of the police commission, whichever comes first.
So that would be operationally ineffective. So I would ask that
Well,
the
I
commission not
noticed
do
that
that.
you have all these people here that I didn't know about, and so if that's what you're talking. There's also no second apparently, so.
Oh, I second it. I just didn't know we were done. The commissioner was making the motion. He was-
Chief, how much time do you think this is going to take?
I would think it could take 15 minutes based on the amount of material that I've supplied in advance.
Is it for the first one or for both of them?
Oh, for both of them.
Okay.
I would say 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
Can I just give my reasons or a couple of reasons why I think it should have been tabled? And there is a motion in a second, so it has to be voted on. It can be voted up or it can be voted down. But from my experience, I don't believe receiving a 5-page document on a Friday evening allows sufficient time for due diligence. Requesting each commissioner to contact the chief on the weekend with questions or thoughts as individuals, to me, is not good process. And I think this item merits discussion in executive session since it involves officer safety, which is a matter of personnel. And the chief says, in what we received, he will respectfully refrain from discussing specific details tonight. That may have changed, but that's what I read.
No, that hasn't changed.
So the chairman, just a little background. When the chairman created the agenda, he had asked that I send this memo in advance for you to contemplate it over the weekend prior to the meeting.
And I did, but I'm not sure that the process of asking individual commissioners to contact you with questions or thoughts is good process for the commission as a whole, since we should hear things. And if we're not going to be able to discuss details because of officer safety, then maybe it should have or should become executive session.
Well, commissioners contact me all the time, just so you know. And I think if you listen to the presentation, perhaps we'll be able to answer the questions that you have.
Okay, can we take a vote?
Well,
I would personally like to continue and do this, number 5. So yay.
Yeah, the question.
well, let's.
So we're in discussion.
Any other
We're
discussion?
in discussion.
We're in discussion.
I just want to, could you repeat what I believe you said something about this being an operational time factor here. Could you just repeat what you said?
It is. So we're talking about using some of our, what I know will be surplus funds in the fiscal year 23 year budget. And that would require us to make purchases this month to make sure that the equipment starts coming in, right? Supply chain issues, et cetera, et cetera. And it does involve officer safety. And I don't want to delay, and I would think that you would not want to delay either, concurring with my proposal so I can go ahead and purchase things that will enhance the safety of our officers.
Well, particularly in light of the fact that supply chain issues are out there, et cetera, you really would want to get these going ASAP.
Correct.
If we approve it, does it have to go to town meeting?
It does not.
You don't have to, oh, if we purchase now, you don't have to encumber surpluses. Is that how it works?
So each year we use surplus funds to buy things. Remember, we talked about freezing the budget on July 1st, and then we buy things at the end of the year. What I'm doing is I'm going to you as the commission to say, hey, this is what we'd like to do with some of the funds and get your concurrence. If you remember, this is also one of my executive goals that was presented to you in January. So, now that last month you had some questions about my executive goals, it's April. We're through the first quarter. And so, it's my responsibility to start checking off some of those executive goals. And this is a very positive one because it increases the safety of our police officers.
And personally, I found the explanation that you gave fairly compelling. And I would not favor delay. I would favor a vote.
Well, not only was it compelling, but it was very extensive.
And it was
Yeah.
a committee. It wasn't chiefs
That's-
report, it was
that's
the
right.
report of the committee.
The report-
And many of the items in it were things that you talked about periodically over the years.
I agree.
So then we should vote.
So,
Oh, can I say something?
okay, let's call the question
Well,
on the motion to
The
table.
second wants to
I just
say,
I have no issue with the purchase of all of this that we want to purchase. I think as a matter of process, though, we need to start getting it together because to me, this item warrants a lot more time than 15 minutes. I've asked for special meetings month after month after month, and we don't have them. And then it's, oh, we couldn't get a room. I'll show up here Saturday, town hall's closed, gotta be plenty of rooms. For me, I just feel like we get to items like this that are very important and then it's rush, rush, rush. And I'm not a fan of that.
Well, I think I agree it's important, but the concept is simplistic, right? So one of the things that you'll hear me say if the vote to table is voted down is that we'd like to get better ballistic goggles. We have goggles now. We want to get better ones. That's what you're contemplating. It's our responsibility to make sure that we adhere to town code with respect to purchasing. And we do. I delineate in every single one of the paragraphs here, which I'll go through very briefly, how we adhere to town code and purchasing agreements.
Here's the only thing, and I think there is merit to the concept that if we had the luxury of time, it would have been far better to have this meeting be in executive session so that detailed questions could be posed and answered. Because relating to officer safety, that is a fit subject for executive session. However, given that this is our meeting and that time is getting short, let's call the question on the motion to table.
Could we repeat the motion so we all understand what we're voting on, please?
I move to table this item. Is it me or do you want the? I move to table this item to the next regular or special meeting of the police commission, whichever comes first.
So to be clear, a yes vote means we do not entertain the proposal. A no vote means we do entertain the proposal. Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
You voted against your own motion?
No, I got confused. I put me down as a yes, obviously, since I made it.
Okay, chief, the floor is yours on this one.
Okay,
And keep to your time.
yes, and brevity is the thing. So if you're on this committee, if you could please stand, we'll do that very quickly. So folks that are here, Public Safety Dispatcher Gosselin, Captain DePerry, Patrolman Egan, and our third in command, Master Sergeant DeMarco, Sergeant Hardy in the back of the room hiding on me. Anyone else there? So we have Patrolman DeFrance, who is also on the committee, Patrolman Simpson, and Patrolman Laura. You guys can go ahead and sit down. So my executive goal this year was to establish a committee to review existing safety, non-lethal, and lethal equipment to ensure that we are providing the most superior and contemporary equipment for our police officers. So the committee has met twice with a lot of work in between. There are 3 different categories: personal protective safety equipment, non-lethal equipment, and safety enhancements in the non-lethal category, and then lethal equipment and safety enhancements in that category. The memorandum that I sent to you, which is a communication that I will not be releasing, even if someone asks for it under the Freedom of Information Act, because section 1-210B19 of the regulations allow me to withhold this document from public consumption as it relates to safety matters. The first thing that we wanted to talk to you about was replacing our ballistic helmets, adding red dot sights to our duty weapons, adding tactical flashlights to our duty weapons, transitioning our current weapons to a new caliber, assigning patrol rifles to officers. Inside the document that you have reviewed, I have outlined the cost of each item. I have discussed how the cost relates, in fact, to the bidding ordinances within the town code, and no bidding ordinances are triggered. The one for the weapons, we negotiated a higher trade-in value, so now that is underneath the limit, although we already submitted and requested various quotes to be in accordance with town code. So I am very comfortable moving forward with the committee's recommendations. This was very employee-centric, and so the public knows. We surveyed 59 police departments to make sure that what we desire to do to enhance our safety and enhance the equipment that we have to do our job for our community is in concert with law enforcement agencies around the state. And as detailed in the report, you will see that we are extremely contemporary with the other law enforcement agencies in the state if you were to concur with my purchases. Arguably, I could probably go ahead and do this each time that we've had any change in weapons. I've come to the sitting police commission and asked for concurrence. And so what I'm looking for tonight, and I believe, Jill, I gave you guys a sample motion. So in the memo, I propose the following motion: a motion to endorse the police.
Somebody's going to read it, chief.
You don't want me to for the presentation? Okay.
One of the things I just wanted to point out, especially within this document, is your language that says the committee was asked to consider these parameters, which are really important parameters in doing your work. It was to consider safety, industry standards, ease of use, operational efficiency, and particularly want versus need, recent events, and fiscal impacts. And I thought that was a very good piece of language that incorporated exactly what their charge was and why this all came together.
And committee membership was volunteer. They were obviously paid for their work in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act, but to be on the committee, you volunteered. So very employee centric. Hey, I want to have a say in our safety equipment and our non-lethal and lethal equipment that we carry to do our job. I was extremely impressed with the amount of work that each committee member did in a very, very short amount of time. So they knew that this was not a 6-month committee, that we had goals. You read part of the charge, which I appreciate, but the committee members really performed well and delivered quite a product, which made it very easy to write this document to you.
And I would like to make that motion
Can
to
I-
endorse,
Okay, go ahead.
to endorse the police chief's plan to use existing operating funds to make such individual purchases that satisfy the department's safety, non-lethal and lethal equipment committee's recommendations that increase officer safety and operational efficiency.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I think this is an excellent piece of work. Congratulations to every person who worked on it. It's thorough, it's detailed, it's fantastic. It was not that I was against that, I was against the process of getting it on a Friday evening to vote on a Monday evening. So just so I'm clear.
Without a meeting, an executive session.
Yes.
Yeah, listen,
Echo Daryl's sentiments. I've always been for whatever safety equipment we need. And again, if this was so important, I wish we had a special meeting and moved this 2 weeks ago. That's my concern. I'm all for all the safety equipment. I've never not been. Just, we need to start changing these policies because this could have been 2 weeks in the works already.
so to partially address their concerns, when the equipment all comes in, perhaps we can schedule an executive session where I can have some of the officers come in and show commission members the enhanced safety equipment.
Do I get to try it?
No, we watched you shoot during the simulator. The answer is no, Carol.
Put flags out there. As Patrick Gosselin knows.
All right, if there's no other discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Great, thank you very much for that unanimous endorsement. Will greatly enhance the safety of our officers. Thank you very much. The next thing will be also very quick. Dan Adams is in the audience, one of our star public safety dispatchers. He worked on this along with Charles Moriarty. If you remember, this is also one of my executive goals. Larry, would you mind sharing the police department website? So one of my goals was to increase transparency through our website and social media. So we have now, first of all, we started in late December, early January, our virtual press room. We had shown you and talked to you about that. Now we have the interactive activity dashboard. Go ahead and click on that if you would. This is now live on our website. So it works very, very simply. I wanted to show you this quickly in your meeting so that if a constituent of yours said, hey, I just was on the police department website, there's this new thing, you would know about it first, right? So it's live now. If you go ahead and hit that button, click enter the interactive dashboard. So what this is using a software program called Power BI that interfaces with our next gen CAD and records management system. And so this is a landing page. Right now we have data for all of 2022 and data for 2023. 2023 is selected there. These are just some interesting facts we think that citizens might find particularly interesting. How many incidents we've had so far. I like this 3,848 reports have been written by your police officers, 88 larcenies, 166 alarms, et cetera, et cetera. On the left-hand side, we break down different things. If you hit on patrol division activity. So this will actually show you what's going on in town with the redaction of addresses, right? So no one can find out what's going on at someone's house. And for officer safety reasons, this is delayed about 8 hours, right? And every 8 hours this will publish. And so really quick, you'll see the time, or the date, the time, what it's dispatched as. So as you get your activity report, that big list of all the different types of things, what it's dispatched as, which officer is in charge of that case or is the primary thing. So you can scroll that and find out what's going on in your town. If you click on traffic stop data. So there's our traffic stop data. We present it in a couple different ways. So if you're a visual person, you can see the pie chart and the heat map. If you're someone that is better at reading things, then you can look at the list of the top 10 charges so far as of now or as of 8 hours ago. if you click on one of the charges. Thanks, Larry, clicking up on that. It'll show you what we gave out for that charge, and there's a heat map related to that, right?
No, that's just the traffic. stop.
That's just the traffic stop. So the heat map shows you where in town we're doing traffic enforcement. So if you're a resident that says they're never on my street, maybe it's true. I don't know. Go to the website, scroll in and see if we've done traffic enforcement on your street.
Is that, what are you talking about now? The map over
Mhm.
here? Okay.
So that's where various car stops have happened
Okay.
around
Thank
town. You're welcome. If you click on motor vehicle accident data. And again, so those months up there, they'll get smaller as there's a new month that comes. So if you click on 2022 real quick. There's all of last year. So that'll change as more months are completed. And again, you got the heat map and you have the different weather conditions related to the various accidents. For marine activity, not much yet. But there's 2022, so last year we stopped 70 vessels. Again, those are the top charges, pie chart, heat map where we're doing that. And then the final category, dispatch activity map. So this is a very generalized heat map because again, we don't want anyone singled out. So if you click on, let's click on assault, see what happens there. ASS. Okay, and so it will tell you kind of where the different assaults have been recorded in town. So this is a tool for our citizens to get a more transparent look at what our agency does day in and day out, have the ability to manipulate the data as they want in an unfiltered way. So if you're an individual that doesn't want to listen to what I have to say during the budget address, well, soon you'll be able to build your own budget address. Because you'll be looking at the same data as I am and you can build the same charts if you want that I do, because it's all right here. And I think that this is a very, very important mission, which is why I made it one of my executive goals, to make sure that our community gets a look at their police department from their own home without having to come to a meeting or ask a question.
Question,
Go for it.
what does this cost?
Nothing.
Thank you.
Absolutely nothing. We're not the first police department in Connecticut that has something like this. Certainly there will be many, many more. Dan is the architect of it. He is the guy that gets all excited because he had it. And I come in and I go, yeah, but so this is probably the 100th iteration, just to be loose on that number. But Dan's put a lot of work into this over the last couple of months. This has taken a long time to build. And now it's automatic. We can add things, we can take things out. So I'll be looking for feedback from members of the community to say, hey, this is a neat tool, or, you know, I'd never use it in my life. But you can't say we're not being transparent.
Looks good.
Thank you. Any questions on that at all? And
No,
again,
but I,
to Dan and to Charlie, who have worked on this project, I sincerely thank you. Excellent job.
yeah, thank you. I think it's important if anybody has any comments or concerns, they can most certainly email the commissioners, you know, just email us directly, or the chief, or anybody. If you have,
You can email the chief because this is definitely operational.
Yeah.
So if you have
Yep.
questions about the data, or if you'd like to see something different, let us know.
yeah, but you can email us anytime you want. Okay.
Item 7.
All right, item 7, this is the annual golf cart fee portion of our meeting. So we are proposing the same fees as last year, $25 for the first cart at a residence, $20 for a second cart at that same address, $15 if there's a third cart at that residence, or $45 for an approved vanity plate. The only difference this year is that the town, Larry's working on it, is starting to accept credit card payments. So very soon at the police department, we will have credit card machines. We'll have 2 fixed machines, one at the dispatch window, one at the records window. We'll have 2 portable machines. So if we do a golf cart registration event where people don't have to come to the police department. They can come, we did it in the parking lot of the middle school one year. They can come and register and pay with a credit card. And so the only difference is the cost associated with those fees, or if somebody wants their plate mailed to them, I want to be able to add those costs on or add the postage cost on. Otherwise, the base fees are the same. And I don't exactly know what those fees are because we haven't been trained yet on the new credit card machines.
When you say
So-
those costs, you're referring to the postage cost, not a handling fee?
Yeah, just postage, whatever it costs. So if it costs $1 to mail, we charge them $1. If it costs $3 to use their credit card, then there's a $3 fee. We're already doing this if you pay your taxes online with a credit card. We're doing the same exact thing.
So Chief, sorry, go ahead.
If I have a lot of money and I want to use a credit card and I don't care about postage, can I do this from home on the website?
Not yet. At some point, we will.
Okay, so this really could be a blah moment and I will take full credit for that. I don't understand the $25 for the first golf cart registered at a specific address and then the 15 for the first golf cart registered at a specific
That should
address.
say third. That should say third. Yep. That should
Oh.
say 3.
Okay,
So if you're the example Carol has, you're very rich and at your home and you have 3 golf carts, the third one would be $15.
so it's missing third. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
There's no further discussion. May I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the proposal to keep the rates the same as last year. Barring any credit card fees or whatever that might be determined after.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
I'm abstaining.
You have an abstention.
Renee is abstained,
Oh,
just so you have it.
Included with their plate, is there any way we're on the new website, can they put where they can and cannot drive these things?
Yeah, they get that as part of
They
their
do.
renewal. Yeah, yep, they get all the rules of the road.
Yeah. They should.
Oh, that reminds
But
me.
hey, look, there's signs with instructions on them, right? But people don't obey them either. But we
Right.
definitely every year do hand out the rules of the road for the golf carts.
Could I get a copy of that, please?
The rules of the road for the golf carts? Yeah, you got it.
Not that I have a golf cart, but.
Yeah, no
But it
problem.
specifically lays out what state roads are.
Doesn't say where the state roads are,
Okay.
but the speed limit has to be a certain speed limit and it's local roads only.
You can send that digitally.
Yeah, I will. Unless you're inviting me over for iced tea and cookies.
And then
I use the clubhouse for that, yeah.
all right. Item 8. Report of the subcommittee to develop a proposed bylaw concerning responsibilities of commissioners.
Okay, very quickly, as many of you know, from watching the bylaw subcommittee meeting of April 6th, the subcommittee comprised of myself, the chairman, and Commissioner Maselli had significant and very rich discussion on what should be presented within that responsibility of commissioners bylaw. And although we agreed on many points discussed and included, we ended that meeting with some differences that we have yet to work through. And we'll take that discussion up again tomorrow, 2 days in a row, both days. April 25th at 6:30 for this bylaw subcommittee. And thank you, Chief, for setting the meeting up, and to Jen and Larry for being available to attend.
Any questions? Item 9, correspondence. I had a letter today that I shared with the commissioners around 5 o'clock and with Jen, asking what time is the meeting, and asking whether it was Tuesday or Thursday. And I responded that it's Tuesday.
So it's Ted Levy's
Yes.
email, right? Yes. So Jessica was kind enough that when she received that, she sent it to us. It was obviously a little clerical error. We changed Thursday to Tuesday and repitched it in plenty of time.
Yes.
So I thank Mr. Levy for finding that.
I totally missed it.
Yeah. apparently need to.
Okay, item 10, comments.
Wait,
from-
Chubb. There was something that came in at 7. Should we talk about that next meeting or? You guys obviously have no, I'm on my phone, so.
I can't speak to it because I don't have it. So that'll be next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
Comments from the public, and I want to just say in advance, we put executive session stuff at the end. Ordinarily, that is for your convenience, not ours. And I know that there might be interest in item 15, which is also informed by item 14, an executive session discussion. So I had to put that one at the end. I don't want to predict how long we're going to be in executive session. So my suggestion to you all would be wait until you can review it in the comfort of your home, if you're interested. And that can then be the subject of public comment at our next meeting.
But are you gonna do public comment now?
Oh, yeah, we're doing public comment now. It's Mahal.
Well, thank you, Linda McCall, Old Saybrook resident. I'd like to thank the people, the chief and members of the department who worked on the transparency project. I think it'll be interesting for the people, and it's nice that we have access to kind of exploring information on our own, and it's also very, all the graphics are nice. I would say though that I would love to see on the webpage a link very clearly delineated for a complaint form, because I have found that to be difficult to locate. I'd also like to say that it just occurred to me that my interactions that I've had with members of the department when I have initiated them have all been positive. But it seems to me that there's a pattern when someone is not the initiator of contact, that at least I have heard or read in the paper of negative interactions. So I wonder if that might be a systemic cultural or training issue that could be addressed, because I certainly have had wonderful interactions when I have sought out help, and I do appreciate that. But when officers, some of whom are now terminated, rightfully so, have approached the public, that has not always been the case. I wonder if we could ask that question. Another thing, in terms of transparency, this data is interesting because it gives us aggregated data, but again, it doesn't address transparency issues related to those less than positive individual personal interactions with members of the department. So I'm still looking for transparency and addressing those issues in terms of training, professional development, and department culture. Particularly in light of the recent articles, but I'll talk about the body cam issue. I feel that this issue is a complex issue, and I feel very strongly, and I request that the commission and the Board of Selectmen, whoever, seek out an impartial looking into this so that members of the department and members of the public can feel confident that our department is in compliance with Connecticut labor law. It's my understanding that electronic surveillance of employees is a labor issue. It's not a criminal issue. So it would be referred to the labor commissioner at some point, or somehow that's the jurisdiction. But I feel we need some clear answers and some clear resolution, because I feel it undermines the public's trust and confidence in the department if it is left unexplored and unresolved. And finally, I'd like to say that I think that we townspeople are looking for prevention, not just punishment of officers. We're looking for our officers to be well-trained in an environment where they know what's expected of them, and where they're not just punished and then it happens again to some other citizen. People have been injured An injury by the police is very serious, it's very traumatic, it's in many cases worse than just, you know, anonymous criminal coming after you, because this is the police, this is the state, this is the society, and police are everywhere, and we need to be able to trust that the police are acting in accordance with the laws, and particularly, you know, people who are unarmed. Thank you.
And not that we have back and forth, the commission should know, because certainly the chairman, I believe, knows that the first selectman has been in touch with not only Labor Council, but the state's attorney on this issue to confirm that the Old Saybrook Department of Police Services is in compliance with the law and doing the correct thing.
Any other members of the live audience wishing to comment? Do we have any members of the virtual audience? Please raise your hand if you'd like to comment. None. All right. I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of interviewing a candidate for the position of per diem patrolman.
Could you please introduce, invite myself and Captain DePerry?
Oh, the chief, Captain Perry, and ultimately the candidate.
And Mr. Chairman, should you extend the motion for all the different executives?
We'll have different people.
We come out right after this.
Or coming out? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yep. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. We are back in public session. I invite a motion concerning the employment of Mr. Paul Maturo.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we offer employment as a per diem position to Lieutenant Paul Massaro after the completion of additional hiring items and at a time determined by the chief that supports the operation of the department.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And we know that Commissioner Kaye was in favor of that.
Yes.
Just waiting for her to come on. Mr. Chairman, you had asked me to briefly comment to the public that this person that we're hiring is replacing an existing school resource officer who is leaving our employee at the end of the school year. And due to our budget position, we'll bring this gentleman that the commission just hired, thank you, on sooner. He'll go through field training and go through training at the school so that come the end of August, he'll be a familiar face to staff and students as the new school year begins.
I think that's a very wise move to have them work side by side for a time.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to collective bargaining.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Who do you want in?
I'll second.
We need certainly the chief.
Chief.
Do you need any? Okay,
Unless we, Larry.
unless we have technical issues with Jessica Fayette.
And we're gonna roll right into that other executive session as well?
Same personnel?
Yes.
Okay, yes, so we'd also go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment of the chief.
Yeah, and if the commission will entertain it, I'd love to have the captain stay for the collective bargaining piece.
Sure.
Second.
Okay, we are there.
All those
Oh,
in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are back in public session. The next item on the agenda is discussion of possible action on the creation of a citizen complaint file. On this one, I'd like to announce a change in direction that the commission and executive session has agreed upon. we are not 100% behind all the language used by the chief and a proposal that he has made to us. But I can confidently report to the chief that his suggestions, the structure of it has been very well received.
Thank you.
Rather than take up countless more hours of fine tuning, it was the sense of the commission that we should schedule a special meeting as soon as practicable and do our homework in advance so that we can bring concrete suggestions to that meeting. I want to thank the chief for the thought that he has put into this and for, as I said, the basic structure, the architecture of it. Unless there is any other comment that the commissioner has to make on this agenda item, let's move on to comments from the chief of police other than good night.
I'll be very, very brief. I just want to thank the commission again for the endorsement of the committee's recommendations. It'll tremendously improve the safety of all of our officers and therefore the product that we deliver to the community. So thank each and every one of you for that. And then my final note is we're down cops. And all of our folks are working real hard to make sure all the shifts are filled. And I want this commission to know that the officers that we have on the street currently are doing a phenomenal job and they're really pitching in to make sure that the job gets done. So publicly, I just want to thank them not only for their current work, but the sacrifices that they're making to work extra hours to make sure that those vacancies are not seen by the public and everyone looks at the police department and they see services being delivered in a superior fashion despite our lack of personnel. So thank you to them. That's it, sir.
All right, comments from police commissioners. Mr. Mazzoli?
No, sir, all set, thank you.
I am all set myself.
I have none.
None.
Well, sorry, good.
I invite a motion to adjourn. Oh, that's okay. Are you signaling?
No, all good. All good.
All right, I invite a motion to adjourn.
So moved or second, whichever Jen would like.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.